7 days ago, I started a business from scratch and I've already made a profit. I'm going to share with you how I've done it, how you can learn from it, and what's next. My name's Ethan Rushop. I'm an accountant and I'm showing you how an accountant would start a business from scratch. And that business is selling stuff online, reselling. And you might be going, wow, what are these things? What are these archaic things? Well, I've started with some VHSs, so I'm going to talk about how I've gone about sourcing some items and how I've made those first few sales. So a week ago at the time of recording, I decided, well, what am I going to sell? How am I going to go source some items for this? And of course, my first starting point was at home. What do I have lying around the house that I'm not using anymore that I can start to do the research from? Whether they were sellable or not is a whole nother story, but I thought, well, they're the items I can start researching. So I knew I had a whole bunch of DVDs, Blu-rays, and VHSs that I'm just not using anymore. I thought, well, what better spot to start than by grabbing some of these and starting to search them up on eBay, finding out what they're worth, finding out if they're worth reselling. And this is going to start building my knowledge in this space. So what I would do, I'd literally grab one of them out the cupboard, or I would grab a couple, so I wasn't looking back and forth, and I would start searching them up on eBay. So, going on there, searching for the item, changing the filter so I could see the sold listings. That's the key. I wanted to see what had actually sold. And then also seeing what was listed. And this gave me an idea of, what's this thing worth? Then I can start to do some calculations, and I, of course, used a bit of a spreadsheet to work out, based on the selling price, the estimated eBay fees, the estimated postage, could I make a profit off this? Now, the key thing with items from home, they have no cost. So I'm already cutting out one of the largest costs, is the cost of the good. But this is a great way for you to start because you can start to learn, well, is this profitable? This applies to any type of business you're starting. You need to have an idea of what is the break-even point. What do I need to sell my item for or my service for it to make sense logically to yourself? Obviously, you want to provide value to the customer, but it needs to provide value to you because you're the one taking the risk. You're the one starting the business. Now, DVDs, VHSs is a broad category. So what I did was pick one particular section of my cupboard to start with, and I found I had some old VHS wrestling tapes that I had. So I bought these years ago when an old video store was closing down. I used to love my wrestling back in the day and wanted to collect as much as I could. So I picked up a whole bunch of VHSs, and I also picked some back up at a garage sale about 10 years ago. Someone was selling their entire collection. I got about 100 DVDs and VHSs for about $50. So I already know what these cost me back in the day, but I had no idea what they were worth now. And so I simply started searching, and after a couple, I found a lot of the VHSs were going in that $40 to $50 range, and they were selling recently. Some of them had sold the same day as when I searched up. So this gave me the confidence that I knew that the postage would be around the $10 mark. And I thought even if I was paying somewhere in that $5 to $10 mark of eBay fees, this could be very profitable to sell these. So the next step was getting them listed. So I literally laid on my floor, stood these up against a white cupboard, took some photos and got them listed on eBay. Now the initial results were pretty crazy. I listed the first 10 on day one and I got a couple offers which I rejected. They were incredibly low offers compared to what they were listed at. I then listed another 10 items on day 6. And by the time I'd finished listing those 10, I'd already sold 2 to one person who had paid $84 for 2 VHSs. I was pretty amazed that someone was buying VHS tapes. By the end of that same day, I'd sold 5 of those 10 items that I listed on that day. So $127 worth was sold on the same day it was listed. I was pretty blown away, but it just showed by finding a category, learning about it. It didn't take me that long to research it. It didn't take me that long to list, and all of a sudden I had sales. So I'll bring up these initial stats here. So there was 20 items listed in this first week, 10 on day 1, 10 on day 6. On day 6, I sold 5 of those items for $127. Now there was no cost to these. Like I said, they were items I already had laying around the house. I do know I picked them up on a cheap deal years ago, but my cost of goods was 0. So then I looked at the eBay fees, and that was $20.91. And then of course I had to package and post them. So for what I sold, it was $49.87 in postage and packaging, and that left me with a profit of $68.09. So not bad for 1 week of only listing 20 items to have already made $68 profit. Now yes, I obviously got these items for nothing. But if I paid, say, even an average cost of $5 each for these, I would still be in profit. I would still have $43 in profit. And that's great for the first week. I could then reinvest that into more stock and buy more items. And, maybe I could get to the stage of selling 5 items a day. So you can clearly see how a business can be a bit of a snowball, but it's all about putting the learnings in place early on. So what's next? I'm going to keep researching more categories of stuff I've got around the house. And this cupboard behind me is where all the DVDs are kept. So I'll give you a closer look in a second, but you can see there are plenty of them in here for me to sort through, even some board games there at the top. So here's all the remaining wrestling ones that I have here that I haven't actually sorted through. So this is after I've listed those initial items. And then we go into Blu-rays. We have other DVDs down here, and it just keeps going. So you can see I built up a nice collection over time. We've got some board games here as well. Now, I don't plan on selling all of these, but if there's anything in here that you've noticed that, you see has some value, make sure you let me know in the comment section so that I can try and get those ones searched up. This way I know it's coming with no risk because there's no cost and I don't have to list it. If I find something in the cupboard, which I found an old Simpsons DVD, I searched it up, I could see it was only going to sell for about $12 or $13. I figured by the time I paid postage and eBay fees, it was not going to be worth my time. Now, if I find some more of these wrestling DVDs that I know I've been selling for $35 plus, and if I find them out in the stores for $5, well, I'm going to pick them up because I know they're going to sell. So it's all about doing your research so you're better at your category or better at your business type. And this goes across every business. It's not just reselling, it's running an accounting business, it's running a cafe, it's being a hairdresser. If you know your craft better than everyone else does or than what the average person does, you're going to be able to improve your business. Now, how am I tracking all this? Well, of course, I'm an accountant. That's the whole point of doing this. I've got a good system. So I'm tracking it two ways, and I'm going to be showing you guys the two different methods I'm using and going into detail. I've already talked a little about using software such as Xero to track it, but I will dive in deeper on this at some stage in the future. But I've also built a customized spreadsheet that's really suited to reselling. So it has all my stock tracking, it has my income and expenses tracking, and I'm going to be diving into this a lot deeper with you guys, and hopefully I might even be able to get you involved in it. But for now, if you're looking to grow your business further in 2023, this upcoming video will help with that. I appreciate watching. I'll talk to you again on the next one.